Jagrada, Jai Masters. Some people say that a human being can't truly conceive of, get close to, have a relationship with this thing called God unless they humanize it, unless they personify it. Like we make a big deal out of worshipping images, like the ancient Greeks and Romans and so on had all these statues and images and gods and goddesses. But we do it too. I mean, people look at Christ instead of looking at God, right? It's something they can relate to. It's something that has form. It's something they can say, if I love this, then I love God, right? And even things, even though the Jewish tradition says have no graven images or any kind of images, you know, the Torah itself or a temple or anything like that, they're not God. God is a lot bigger than that. Okay? And so to get any sort of conception, we end up creating images. It says not to, but those are images. We create images. All right? Can a human being, meaning you, have a direct relationship with God, real God? God, the creator of the universe. God, the omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent one. Or do you have to bring it down to the human level? And what yoga teaches, and the great teachings, all the great deep teachings, including Christ, teach that, yes, you do have a direct relationship, and you can have a direct relationship, not by bringing God down to your size, but by allowing you to go to the infinite, omnipresent, omniscient size. That's the key. It's not, I'm in a body, therefore God needs a body. I have a mind, therefore if I think of God, that's God. I have a human heart that can love and can hate and can be scared and do these things. If the heart is feeling love, devotion for God, then that's as far as I go. I've brought God down to my size. I have brought God down, I call it God of the mind. Okay? This is what I believe in God. Well, what is a belief? It's a thought pattern that you hold in your mind. Is it not? I don't believe in God. I believe in God. To a yogi, to a very deep being, they're the same. They're beliefs. They're things that you formulate in your mind, and you say, I believe in God, but I had a miscarriage, now I don't. Or better yet, and I've heard people say it, I believe him and I hate him. Why would you do that to me? You see, you've humanized the holy relationship. You basically brought it down to, in essence, what is God to you? That which takes care of me. That answers my prayers. That which knows what I need before I need it and gives it to me. Somehow every one of those words was about me. God's a little bigger than you. The reality of what it means to be omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent is a lot bigger than you. But that's not what you care about. I'm not talking to you personally, but just listen. What you care about is, I will do my best to take care of me. What does that mean? To get what I want. I told you once before, the foundation of what a human being is, I have things I want, and I have things I don't want. I'm going to spend my life trying to get what I want and avoid what I don't want. Did I get you yet? And you think it matters what you want or what you don't want. Yeah, it does morally, yes, it does legally. I understand. But from a spiritual point of view, you're still dealing with the limitation of wants and not wants. Those are things that are very, very human. Okay? By the way, they're what we call very, very personal. How do I know they're personal? Because yours are different than hers. And guess what? Yours are different than your wife's. You won't tell her, but yours are different than your kids. Yours are different. There's no one that has the same wants and fears and desires, wants and not wants as you. I've been through that before. There is no one that has ever walked the face of the earth or ever will or is here now that has the same wants and not wants as you. Why? Then you go to what I always teach you. That's why spirituality is really very grounded. If you want to know God, if you want to know the real God, you have to start with understanding why you don't. So what do I mean? That every human being that ever lived is different than you, has different wants and not wants. Why? Well, where do your wants and not wants come from? That's very naive if you think you made up what you want and what you don't want. That is not true. Not one single one of you ever made up what you want or don't want. And I have all the psychologists standing behind me. They've studied it, they've watched it, and they're right. They say a human being is the sum of their learned experiences. What does that mean? It means if somebody comes up to you and they say something mean to you and you never met them before, you don't like them. And if you see them again, you avoid them. The sum of your learned experiences. Oh, but it's logical. It's not logical. If you didn't have that experience, you would not have that feeling about that person, would you? If they didn't take your blanket away too soon, you wouldn't be Freudian weird. Every single thing they say you are the sum of your learned experiences. Yeah. Don't think of it as just, oh, there's some big trauma that happened to me. Every single day. If you're driving behind a car that's a, I'm old, right? A 1976 Pinto. They don't make them anymore, believe me, all right? And a Ford Pinto, and you're driving behind the car, and it's kind of aqua green, and all of a sudden he rams on his brakes. You almost hit him. And he floors it. And then he starts to turn, but he comes back, right? If you ever see that car again, your heart will go, even if you're in Germany and that car ain't there. It doesn't matter. I want to know, did I tell the truth or not? Does it leave an impression on you? Yes. Right? Therefore, you are different because you had that experience. And you think you're deciding these things because your mind is so attached to itself that it says, I know how people who drive 1976 green Pintos drive. And that's weird. I ain't getting near them ever again. Okay? Get married to someone named Sam and have him turn out to be a real son of Sam. A real schnook. Okay? And you get divorced. I'm telling you, if the next time your friend tries to hook you up on a blind date and you're exciting, it looks wonderful. What's his name? Sam. Forget it. Watch. I've had enough Sams for the rest of my life. It sounds logical to you. It's not logical at all, is it? It's just an experience that happened to happen, and you happen to have it. Nobody else had it. Just think about how you go from spot to spot to spot having experiences. Is anybody having the same experiences as you? No one ever has, and no one ever will, because the experience will never happen again. It's a motion picture. The moments don't repeat themselves. So it's really important to understand this is all about knowing God. Because that's why you don't know God. That sounds weird. Why is that why I don't know God? Because your consciousness is distracted by what you want and what you don't want. If you go to a party and you walk into that party, you're having a good time, there's music, there's food, there's this, there's all kinds of entertainment things going on, and your consciousness is resting on the experience. And all of a sudden somebody yells out, Sam, Sam, you want to leave. So what happened was this one experience that you stored from the past, it was very strong because you stored all of the emotions and the whole history, every single thing about it, you stored in your mind and your heart, didn't you? And that is way more distracting than the music at the party, than the people at the party, than all of a sudden one word, because this comes back up. So your consciousness is distracted by the sum of your learned experiences. I always tell you, white lines go right through the lines on the road. How many times do you have nightmares about the lines on the road? How many times do you really make a thing out of the darn lines on the road? Whether they're solid or yellow or white or dashed on one side or the other, you don't make a thing out of them. They go right through. But Sam doesn't. Nor does the fact that you went on a picnic and there were ants. I'm not going back there. There was ants all over the place. Just happened to be there was ants there. There might not be later. But you don't hear about it, do you? Go to a restaurant, and the particular time you go to the restaurant, something goes wrong. The waiter spills some water, something happens. You're not going back there. And you're telling everyone, don't go to that restaurant. Just because one stupid experience programs you so that now you're not free. So what happens is your consciousness gets distracted by the strongest stuff that's going on inside your mind and your heart. Your awareness, your consciousness. You are, I forgot to ask you, are you in there? Anybody in there? Okay, you're in there. What are you doing in there? I'm being aware of what's in there and what's outside. That's what I'm doing. I'm aware. If I wasn't aware, there wouldn't be an issue with her. But I'm aware. And what happens is the outside comes in as an experience, and it hits the mind, and the mind starts thinking about it, hits the heart, and the heart starts feeling about it. And if the thoughts and the feelings are nice, then you like what's out there. If the thoughts and the feelings are not nice, you don't like what's out there. and you store it inside. You store the strongest ones that are the most nice and the most not nice. I've often said to you at this particular moment, if you're listening, I hope you are, isn't it a kind of silly thing to do to store inside of you everything that ever bothered you? Ever think about that? Okay, everyone does this. They don't even think about it. Let's say you went to a restaurant and they've served some food and you got sick. It wasn't good. Something was wrong with the food, all right? And you started to feel gas and stomach ache, right? Well, what you should do is call the waitress over, and say, oh, excuse me, can I have a doggy bag? And take the doggy bag, take it home, and there's a room in your house called the sick room. And you take that food and you put it in the sick room. Well, every time anything made you sick, you keep it in that room. And every morning, just a little teaspoon, you go in and taste it to remember how sick it made you. Now, you laugh because that would be pretty stupid, wouldn't it? Why would you do that? Well, why do you do it with experiences? Why do you literally have a bad experience? It's over. Somebody said something not nice to you. Somebody didn't call when they were supposed to. Some experience happened. You don't let it go. You say, give me a doggy bag. And you store it inside of you, don't you? And it comes back up all the time, doesn't it? How many of those have you done? Thousands and thousands and thousands all the time. You've done it since your youth. Everything that ever bothered you is stored inside of you. And you wonder why you're not okay. So that stuff is distracting your consciousness. Well, so what? If it wasn't, I'm going to make a statement for you and then we'll fill it in later. If it was not distracting your consciousness, you would know God. Which God? Not the God that would give you what you want because you don't want anything, because you're fine. Not the God that would make sure you don't have things you don't want because you couldn't care less. It doesn't bother you. Because what happens is your consciousness itself, not what it's conscious of. The consciousness itself is the holiest thing in the universe. It is the universe. You're a very great being. And your consciousness, when the Bible says man is created in the image of God, it's talking about your consciousness. You are aware of things. If you were not aware of things, they wouldn't exist, would they? There are two things in your universe: your consciousness and objects of consciousness. Your awareness and things you're aware of. The things you're aware of change constantly. Your thoughts are things you're aware of. Yes or no? You're aware of your thoughts? Your emotions are things you're aware of. And what comes in through your senses are things you're aware of. So you are aware of objects of consciousness. To a yogi, a great being, all objects of consciousness are the same. All objects of consciousness are the same. They're objects of consciousness. All right? The only thing that's different is the consciousness itself. I am aware of her. I'm aware of him. I'm aware of the ant. I'm aware of the sound. I'm aware of the color. It's just things I'm aware of. Who's aware of them? That's the thing that's different. Everything else is just listen to me. That's called non-dualism, this teaching. Everything else is an object of consciousness. That's a category. Is it consciousness or an object of consciousness? I've never done this deep with you. Is it consciousness or an object of consciousness? Every thought is an object of consciousness, is it not? You're aware of it. Same you. Are you aware if you have a nice thought and you're aware if you have a not nice thought? Is the same you that's aware of it? Or you got to phone each other? There's only one consciousness in there, but there are infinite objects of consciousness. Every single thought is an object of consciousness. Every emotion is an object of consciousness. Everything in form is an object of consciousness. From looking at him or looking at her, there's no difference. I'm looking at something. But it's a girl. There's no difference. You're making a difference with your mind. They're just objects of consciousness. Here's a rock. It's shining. Here's another rock. The gold type shining, okay? This one has to be real gold, and this one is fool's gold, all right? To the consciousness, there's no difference. They're rocks. Until you fill it in with your past experience. A baby doesn't know the difference in those two things. And a lot of fools buy fool's gold. That's why it's called fool's gold. They don't know the difference either, all right? The difference is because your mind processed this and said they're different. To a great being, when I told you we'll keep coming in and out, to a great being, consciousness is the most important thing. If I take away an object of consciousness, are you still aware it's gone? Here's a diamond, right? See it? I'm going to take it away. Did you see it when it was there? Do you know it's not there? Did consciousness change? No. Awareness stayed the same. You were just aware it was there, now you're aware it's not there. This is like the most important spiritual teaching you will ever get. You are in there. Who are you? What they mean by soul, what they mean by Atman, all this is you. It's not some esoteric thing that you need to learn about. You are it. You've always been it. So you start there. There's consciousness and objects of consciousness. The objects of consciousness, you might like them, might not like them. They might be scary. They might be this. Whatever it is, everything's different. A rattlesnake and a butterfly are different. But they're still objects of consciousness. A scary situation and a pleasant situation are just objects of consciousness. Take a breath. This is what it means to research true spirituality. And this is what it means to try to find God, real God, not God of the mind. God of the mind, I told you, is about I am distracted completely. That's a normal human. I am distracted completely by my thoughts and by my emotions. And my thoughts and emotions are affected by what happens in the outside world. I told you once, none of you care one hoot about the outside world. None of you. Right now, you don't have to do any meditation. You don't have to do a single thing. You do not care one hoot about what's going on in the outside world. You care because the outside world affects your inside. If it didn't affect your inside, you couldn't care less about it. That's why you don't care about the white lines. Anybody willing to listen? It's because the outside affects the inside. Why? Because you stored past experiences in your inside and you're putting them all together and figure out what you like, what you don't like, and all that kind of junk. Okay? And that's what it means to be a human, that you do that stuff. But then you get totally distracted. Your consciousness gets so distracted by this noise going on in your head and in your heart and the world affecting it and so on, that you never get out. Very few people ever get out. They spend from the time they're born to the time they die figuring out what they want, figuring out what they don't want, trying to get it and trying to avoid it. So you're really special. You're into money. You're into Ferraris and fancy cars and castles, and that's what you're about, right? You're a hippie, all right? And you're into off the grid and have nothing to do with anything and total vegetarian and vegan stuff, everything. You're both the same. To a yogi, you're the same. You are both completely absorbed in your objects of consciousness. Your object of consciousness, your thoughts and your emotions, are saying, get off the stupid grid. You can't trust anybody, blah, 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 blah. And yours is saying, get in the grid, own it, all right? In both cases, your consciousness is lost in whatever your object of consciousness is. Is that threatening? Do you understand that? All right, that's what it means to go deeper than the personal self. The personal self is the mind that's programmed by the past experiences. The mind and heart that are programmed by the past experiences are personal to you. And now you look outside and try to control the world so that when it unfolds, it matches what you like and doesn't match what you don't like. It's simple. You spend your whole life that way. Okay? And you call a paradigm shift. Most people call it a paradigm shift. I used to be the one that wanted all the money. Now I'm the one that's go off the grid. I changed everything. I haven't changed a single thing. Not from a spiritual point of view. Do you see that? It's a nicer object of consciousness. It's a nicer set. Okay? It's like, I'm going to go very extreme. If you really want something, you take a gun and put it in somebody's head, give it to me. I want that. Right? Or you go, Om Namah, attract it to me. I want the manifestation. I want what you have. Please bring it to me. Same. Not really, okay? But you hear me. In both cases, you're completely absorbed in what you want and what you don't want. You're just using different methodologies to do it. This is called transcendental thought. You're understanding that you're the consciousness. How you go about getting what you want, avoiding what you don't want. Listen, if you're my neighbor, use mantras, not guns. I mean, it's certainly much nicer. It's more civil. It's better for society. It's legal. Like, there's just all kinds of things that are much nicer. But from a spiritual point of view, a strictly spiritual point of view, you are the consciousness and you are absorbed in your objects of consciousness. The fact that your objects of consciousness changed, fine. Okay? I'm not passing moral judgment on anything. I'm talking spiritually. So that basically the key becomes, if your consciousness is distracted by you, and you know what I mean, by your ego and your superego and your id, and nice Freudian stuff in your head, and all the different things that go on in your heart, and those are being affected by the outside world, you're gone. So spirituality sits there and says, okay, all objects of consciousness are the same. I don't obviously feel that way because I got my stuff inside, right? So that, obviously, let's be honest. Somebody talked about spiritual bypassing, right? Okay, they're all the same, I'm done. No, that's spiritual bypassing. You're not even close to done. You haven't even started. You are sitting there absorbed in your personal self. And you're still out there trying to control everybody and everything so that you can be okay in there. So at some point, you wake up and you sit there and say, wait a minute, I'm not done. The outside world has every ability to mess with me inside, but I don't want to devote my life to that. That's a spiritual person. There. I don't want to devote my life to me. I would like to know more than me because I'm very limited. Oh, am I limited? I like this color. I like that person. I live in this house. How big is that? I try to tell you, I don't know why. It affects me all the time to sit there and say, that's all one spot on this giant planet. And that's all you think about? And your family, you have 1 kid, 2 kids, and a husband. That's 3 people out of 8.3 billion. And how long are you going to be here? What? 70, 80, 90 years? How long has the planet been here? 4.5 billion? And you think it's important to think about this tiny little meaningless thing that's here today and gone tomorrow, and is just the sum of its learned experiences anyways. If I had a different experience, we'd be thinking differently. Doesn't matter. I'm completely devoted to me. I'm devoted to my thoughts, my emotions, and therefore I need this tiny world I live in. How small is your world that you interact with all day or throughout your entire life compared to the planet Earth? Now, it's ridiculous. And what do I tell you? I'm going to do it again. I'm sorry. 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. And you're taking up how much room on the meaningless thing that 1.3 million fit inside the sun? And your sun is one of 300 billion stars in one galaxy. And there are 2 trillion galaxies. What's important to you? Me. My thoughts, my emotions, my body, and my world. That's because your consciousness is distracted by that. Therefore, that is your world. Your consciousness, which you don't know anything about, is completely distracted all the time by you. My children, my house, my job, my car, my body, my relationship, my. All right? It's so small, it's incomprehensible how small it is. But it's your whole world. It's 100% of your whole world. Spirituality is about saying the following. Is there something greater than me? Well, you said God is probably greater than you. Can I know something greater than me? Or do I have to bring this God, G-O-D thing, down to me? And spirituality says, no, don't bring it down to you. Go up to it. How? You can't go up to it while you're distracted down. That's it. That's the entire real spiritual teaching. Yeah, I told you once, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to take a 15-foot rattlesnake. Don't be scared. Do be scared. And I'm going to drop it down in this room. It's not tamed. It's a regular old rattlesnake. Okay? First question I'm going to ask you. You can't stop me from doing it. I'm going to do it. You have one choice. Do you want it in front of you or behind you? That's not even funny. Okay? I want it in front of me. Why? So I can watch what it's doing, so I can be distracted by it. There's no way in the world I don't want to be distracted by it. I don't want it behind me and not know what's going on. Okay? So that basically you've done that with all of the things in your life. So it pulls you down. It pulls your consciousness down to form. Believe it or not, and I'm not going to prove it to you, someday you'll find out for yourself, that's the fall from the garden. The fact that your consciousness is capable of being conscious of anything, including, ready? Oh, I'm going to say it, itself. If consciousness can be aware of something, why can't it be aware of being conscious? That's what you mean, in a little sense, with witness consciousness. Everybody's witnessing what they're seeing, but some people are aware that they're seeing it. Okay? I'm feeling insecurity. I'm lost in it. I need to find somebody. I don't know what to do. I'm so unhappy. Okay, there. Now, you have lost your consciousness in insecurity. There's no center. It got pulled away into the insecurity. I've learned to get above that. I'm the witness. I'm the consciousness. Yesterday, I was feeling love. Today, he or she said something, and I'm feeling insecurity. I'm feeling jealousy. But I'm the one who's feeling it. I'm not it. I'm the one who's noticing that the weather inside changed. How's that? Okay? I'm in here, and it used to be sunny in here. Now it's a little stormy. But I didn't go down there. It didn't pull me down there. It doesn't mean it's pleasant. It just means I'm capable. This is so important. I'm capable of remaining in the seat of consciousness, witness consciousness, awareness, the seat of awareness, and I know that this is just something I'm aware of. I'm not aware of it. I'm not claiming I'm not aware of it. I see it perfectly. I'm jealous. I see it perfectly well. There it is. So you're seeing it. There it is. But it didn't suck you in. You're capable of relaxing in the face of it. You're capable of knowing it will come and go like everything else does. Everything in your life has come and gone. Nothing in the universe stays for even truly a nanosecond. Every atom is, every electron is different. Everything's changing unless you stop it, unless you hold on to that, and then it stays in your mind, even though it didn't stay in the world. Right? If I take the rattlesnake out now, you'll never come back to the temple. There's rattlesnakes in there. He said he wouldn't put it in again, but I don't know. What's stopping him? You see what I'm saying? You now have an impression in your mind, and even though there is no rattlesnake, and there will never be another rattlesnake, there will be for you. It's there from now on. God, please listen. So it has distracted your consciousness, pulled you into it, versus I am in here, and I'm noticing that he's getting weird about this subject. He got weird because the name Ben called out. But I'm aware that I'm in Europe, and Ben ain't in Europe. In fact, Ben died 5 years ago. All of a sudden you stayed, that's what the word centered means. I'm a centered being. What does centered mean? I don't get pulled away from this place. That's my place of center. I'm sitting in a seat of consciousness. I'm not thinking of a seat of consciousness. I am. I'm aware. Objects of consciousness are coming and going, and that's what they do. They come and go. They may pull on me a little bit, but I let go. Now you understand why I teach letting go. All right? I'm in this seat, and all of a sudden, some fear comes up. Did I not have the fear? I had the fear. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to have a self-concept that says I don't have fear. Right? It's something I had. It came up based on my past experiences. Didn't make you feel fear. You didn't freak out when you heard the name Ben. In fact, you got excited because you were dating a Ben. Not my Ben. All right? Are we weird? Yes, me. Are we weird? All right? So if you're centered, these events can happen outside. They still do. Believe me, you know what you do, they're going to unfold outside. They can hit your stuff because you still have stuff. And now you know it's stuff you stored in there from before, so that it can get stimulated up of like and dislike and all that stuff. And believe it or not, you can sit right there and, you know what deep state becomes as you spend more time there? Been there, done that. That's what it's like. I've seen that before. I've seen the jealousy. I've seen the fear. I've seen the insecurity. Been there, done that. And I managed to sit through it before. I noticed that it can growl and start to come up, and I can just relax, and I can ever feel a pull? Doesn't it pull you into it? It's not easy to stay back there, is it? All right? That's why I teach you. Don't struggle with it. This is how you get out. If you struggle with it, it already won. Because you had to go down there to struggle with it. It's not about pushing it away. It's not about not having it. It's not about denying it. It's about saying, I've seen you before, and I know you're going to come and go. And I'm capable of not going down there. I can feel pull. I teach that in the new book, Living Untethered. What do I do when I feel a pulling? I don't pull back. I don't try to push it away. I do what happens if I'm in a tug-of-war with somebody much stronger than me on the other end of the rope, and I'm holding the rope, and I couldn't care less who wins. I just want to go home. What do? I don't have to win. I just relax my hands. If I relax my hands, I go home. All right? It takes two to tango. So if that thing's pulling on you, and you feel a pull, who's on the other end of the pull? I understand it has a powerful pull of attraction pulling you down. But if you feel pull, it means you're holding on. You're on the other end. Oh, God, if you guys understand me, it's the deepest stuff you'll ever understand. You're on the other end of the rope. So the mistake people make is they sit there and say, I'm not supposed to feel jealousy or anger or lust or greed or any of these sort of things because I'll go to hell. Therefore, I have to make them go away. You just suppress them. They'll be there all the time. Well, what do? I don't want to go with them. Yes, if you go with them, you go down. If you go down there to fight them or you go down there to be with them, it's the same thing. God, can you believe that Christ actually talked at this level? He said, "It has been said unto you, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say unto you, resist not evil." Well, what kind of statement is that? If you fight it, it becomes part of your life. If you fight the jealousy, you fight the fear, you fight the insecurity, you fight the lust, you fight the greed, you fight these things, then you're basically saying either they're going to pull me and I go with them, or I push them away and I suppress them. He said, don't resist them. Resist not evil. What does that mean? Relax. Relax in its presence, and what happens? It passes by. It passes through. And it is what happens, by the way. The only reason it's in there is because you held it in there from the past. Or you're holding it in there now. If you relax, relaxation is the opposite of resistance. Listen to me. Relaxation is the opposite of resistance. If you're resisting something, you have to put out will to interact with it to resist it. If you relax, you can't do that. Relaxing means I am not resisting, doesn't it? Go to a massage. Have it massaging you. Should you resist? Tighten up every time it touches something? No, relax, relax. Do yoga. What do they tell you? Relax through it. Just relax through it. That is what every spiritual thing is trying to teach you. Relax. If you relax, it means I got to stay centered. I'm the one who's relaxing. It's what was pulling on me. Well, what do I do if I don't like what's happening? Relax. No, I have to do something. That is doing something. It is relaxing. It's a thing to do. It's an act of will. Relax. Don't fight it. Don't touch it. Don't resist it. Don't wish it wasn't there. Just relax. Well, have I relax? Because you relax, it has room to pass. And that's what it will do. Doesn't mean that if you feel anger and you relax, that you'll never feel anger again. But you'll feel less. I guarantee you, you'll feel less. The first time you sit through one of these pulls and manage to stay centered, you learned how to do it. When you play the scales on a piano, every time you play it, you get better. Doesn't mean you're a concert pianist, but I guarantee you, you practice a sport or practice an instrument, you will get better. That's the same thing. You're in here. If you practice relaxing in the face of the pull by letting go, next time it will be less, and next time it will be less. And eventually, you have to ask, is it still there, or am I just able to handle it? What difference does it make? It couldn't pull you into it. And now we're going very deep. Yukteswar, Yogananda's guru, very enlightened, brilliant being, made a statement. An ignored guest quickly leaves. An ignored guest quickly leaves. What does that mean? It means if you don't interact with it, it's gone. If somebody comes to your house and wants to either be so nice that you like them or wants to make so much disturbance you don't like them, they're going to stay. You interacted with them. If you ignore them, they'll leave. It's boring. Okay? It's the same thing with these patterns that you stored inside. If you can handle them and relax in the face of them, there's no reason for them to be in there. They're in there because you couldn't handle them. You couldn't handle the divorce, so it's still in there. You couldn't handle the snake, so it's still in there. If you're the kind of person that likes reptiles, you grew up with them, your brother had them, then you see the snake, it doesn't bother you at all. You don't think twice about it. Oh, I've seen those lots of times. Hear me? If you can handle it, it passes through. If you can't handle it, either because you liked it so much that you don't want it to pass through, that's called a positive samskara, or you didn't like it so much that you don't even want it to ever come back up again, a negative samskara, they're both doing the same thing. They're basically saying, I couldn't handle it, I had to make a thing out of it, so I stored it inside of me, and so it keeps coming back up. So this thing about witness consciousness, about being centered, about being clear, Krishnamurti called it objective observation. Objective observation, isn't it? That's witness consciousness. There's another name for witness consciousness. It was very early, back in the 50s and 40s, whenever Krishnamurti was, all right? Very great being. And that's what he called it, way before you all thought about witness consciousness or anything. He called it objective observation. I mean, you're there objectively, not personally, observing what's going on inside. What will happen if you do? It will come and go. Therefore, leaving you as it found you. You stay centered. We talk now as though witness consciousness is some great state. It's really not. It's just a starting position of spirituality. In other words, if you can't maintain your center, You're just another human. You're just another human, a loose cannon running around, and somebody says something, you hit them. Somebody says something, you run away, you never talk to them again. You're just a reactive machine, right or wrong. That's all you're doing is reacting based upon the fact that somebody came in and you either liked it or you didn't like it, and boom, there we are, right? Well, like I said, if you want to call God that I can pray and ask that I get what I want and avoid what I don't want, very good. You made him as small as you. It's a personal God. Okay, what happens if you learn to do this? And I taught you how. I just taught you how to do it. If you can relax in the face of the pull. Now, you guys would think, but how great do I have to be to get to the point that I can relax in the face of the pull? Well, I'll give you an example. How about a heroin addict that goes through withdrawal and straightens their life up? Can it happen? Can it happen? Yeah. Did they not relax through it? Did they not manage to not go with the pull? Well, you think there was no pull? A lot of pull. There's a lot of pull in it, going through withdrawal. If they can do it, you can do it. They just did it about a very low thing. You can do it about a very high thing. Your ego, your self-concept, your preferences, right? It's not about renouncing. It's about letting go. That's different. Renouncing is, I want it. I'm not letting go. I want it, but I'm not going to do it because I want to go to heaven. Or I don't want to go to hell. All right? That's a problem. That's depression. What I'm interested in is, okay, I feel a desire. I feel a fear. I noticed. And I'm wise enough to notice that their desires sound very promising and fear sounds very scary, but they all come and go, don't they? And I get left holding the bag. If I react based on the fear, I quit my job, I left this, I did that, right? I was scared. All right, well, okay, fine. That's your karma. Now you've laid a pattern down based upon your limitations, and you need lessons. They'll come back. Understand that? I don't ever want you to look at karma as a punishment. Don't ever think like that. What karma is I couldn't handle this, so I hit you. Now I'm in jail. Why? Because you couldn't handle yourself. Therefore, life put you in jail. Well, now what? Now I need to learn to handle myself. In the surrender experiment, I tell a story about this one inmate that I did prison work for 30 years, and very, very special soul. He was head of a motorcycle gang and had been in fights with rival gangs and killed people and all kinds of stuff, but was very, very special and grew tremendously. But he told me the first time I met him, he said, after he listened, he used to come to my class all the time. He sat there and said that when he went in to the maximum security prison, and that he was a wild man. Of course he was. Right? He was head of a motorcycle gang. And there was another brother of his, of that gang, that had been in there for years. And he pulled him aside, and he said, listen, don't resist. Wow, he's getting satsang from a motorcycle guy. He says, don't resist. He said, I've been here. There are places in here that are so dark that you don't want to go there. And they can put you there. It's not worth it. You've been fighting your whole life, not in here. Wow, isn't that amazing? In other words, that guy went through what he needed to go through to learn how to handle himself. Okay? So don't say it was his karma. It was his teaching opportunity. It is for you too. So if you do things that hurt people, if you do things, you're basically telling life, I'm not done with this. I need to go through this again. I need more training on this. I need to practice more. That's how I want you to look at karma. So it's true that what goes around comes around, but not as a punishment, okay? As an opportunity to do better, to stay centered and not react the same way. So basically here you are learning this. And so now let's say you managed to do that. Let's go deeper. We talked about knowing God. Now you still know you, but you're a little higher. You're watching it. I told you once, Ram Dass, beautiful teacher, right? And he always gave lectures till he passed some years ago. But back in the 70s, we used to listen to his lectures. And I'll never forget, he once said, it's sort of like I feel like I'm standing on a bridge watching tumultuous water go under. And every once in a while, a spray comes up and touches me. And I think, I used to be in that. That's witness consciousness. I'm up here, I'm aware, and I'm able to stay up here. Not by fighting. Not by fighting. You lose if you fight. By relaxing. If you're capable of relaxing, then you're capable of going through it, and it's capable of going through you. All right, now what happens? So what's this got to do with knowing God? So the first thing you've done is not known yourself so well. Right? You're not so lost in your stuff that it's running your life. It didn't pull you out of the garden. Right? Pulls you down. Then you're out there and you have to work with the sweat of your brow. The Bible says you're thrown out of the garden, you work with the sweat of your brow. You do that, don't you? You work with the sweat of your brow, trying to get what you want, avoid what you don't want. That's because you got pulled down into your stuff. All right? If you can stay up there, how? By relaxing. Relaxing through what? I would advise trying to relax through everything. You won't be able to, but that's why you'll get a second shot and a third shot. And just like the piano, can you play some scales? Yeah. Can you play Beethoven? No. Try Beethoven? No, I can't play it. But if you play your scales, eventually maybe you can. The same thing here. Just every day, let go, let go. It's raining, you don't want it to rain. That's a wonderful practice opportunity. God, I care so much for you, and they don't teach you this, right? Have you ever had weather not be the way you want it to be? Did it change? Did it change because you didn't want it to be that way? Therefore, you wasted an opportunity to let go. You might as well have used it as a practice session. It's not going to change anyways. Okay, fine. It's raining. I have to get out of the car and carry these papers. And it wasn't raining 10 minutes ago, and now it's pouring. No. Okay. I'm sitting on a little planet spinning around outer space, and there's weather. Fine. In the spot where I have to be standing on the planet, of which 1.3 million fit inside one star, okay, I think I can handle it. How about you? And you just start handling it. Just relax. Okay, fine, I'll relax. And you just take that opportunity, every opportunity to keep relaxing, releasing, relaxing, releasing. That's what it means. Relax and release. Relax and release. Right? And if you practice, you will find more and more that you're able to stay centered. And that's where I want you. Now what happens? This is the big difference between the personal God and God. All right? What do you mean? Your awareness, which is you, your awareness is who you are, used to get pulled down, constantly pulled down. Now it's not getting pulled down. What happens? Well, it's very nice it's not getting pulled down. That in of itself is a reward. I can handle things. Somebody said something. Okay, fine, he said it. Right? All of a sudden, wouldn't it be nice to be able to handle things? Now I don't have to pay attention so much. It doesn't call all of my need and energy and will to deal with it. Because it's fine. I'm fine with it. What will start happening is you'll notice that where you sit, you look down. There's a behind you. Everything has a front and a back and a left and a right. You're just sitting in one spot. You're not getting pulled down, but you're still looking. Right? Like Rama said, watching the water go by, he don't go down there, but he's still looking down at it. He still noticed the water's pulling his consciousness. You understand? So you're there, and if you sit enough, you'll start noticing what else is there. Right now, all I know is me, because that's what's being pulled down to look at. What if I didn't? Where did I come from? Who am I? What is consciousness? What's it made of? Where does it come from? It's the most important thing in your whole life. How do I know? If you're not conscious, don't worry about anything. You're not conscious. It's the essence of your being, your consciousness. And all I can tell you is if you sit in that spot enough, you start to feel this upward pull. Of what? Of like something in there saying, what about me? What about not the dot that's sitting there looking at this? What ocean is the dot in? Where did the dot come from? I don't have to think it. You're not thinking this. You're just not getting pulled down. And what happens is you're not getting pulled down, you naturally go up. You naturally start to get pulled up, and you will start to feel what's called Shakti. You start to feel this beautiful energy pulling on you, drawing you up, beckoning to you. And it's really beautiful. And you realize this is where love came from. This is where all love that I've ever felt came from, in here. The difference is I was open enough so it made it down through. Or I was so closed that it never made it down through. But this is the source of love. This is the source of joy. This is the source of beauty. This is the source of inspiration. Everything is from behind, is back there. Now it's getting more interesting. All right? That's where all your spiritual experiences come from and so on. But I told you before, I'm not interested in spiritual experiences. I'm interested in your spiritual state. An experience is something that comes and goes. Oh, I had this beautiful experience 20 years ago. Okay. How you been doing? Well, not well, but that was a beautiful experience. That was quite the experience. I saw white lights glowing all over the place, and Jesus came and pulled a hand with Krishna. It was the most amazing thing, right? Well, now I'm suffering, all right? It's like a spiritual state is where you're at inside, where you live inside. So now, because you're not being distracted by the lower aspect of your being, how? By learning to relax in its face. Now I don't get pulled down into it. You're going to start to have some room in there and realize you're not little. You're not a dot looking down at this. A ray of sun, one beam of sun falls on the earth. That's you. That's not who you are. You're the whole sun. You're the source of where the beam came from. It's pretty expansive, isn't it? So you're not a dot of consciousness. But now it is, because you're focusing it down on one little tiny thing. Okay? And when you learn to relax through yourself, Christ called it dying to be reborn. All the great masters taught the same thing. You have to let go of you to know what's greater than you. Otherwise, what you know is you. It's very logical, isn't it? Okay? So you keep relaxing through yourself, relaxing through it. You will end up in a seat that doesn't get pulled down as much. At some point, doesn't get pulled down at all. And then all of a sudden, you'll realize there's something behind you. That's all I can say. And I want to try to even say it. You don't realize you're sitting somewhere looking at you because you're busy being you. You're busy being drawn down into you. The moment you're not drawn down into you, by being able to relax through you, you will realize, wait a minute, I don't have to stare at this. Another way to look at it is, all right, sunlight's everywhere, isn't it? During the day, sunlight's everywhere. Take a magnifying glass. Hold it in front of the sunlight. It narrows its beam down to a spot that would burn something, doesn't it? Okay, you're that spot. You focus your consciousness so much on you that you're now just that little dot, that dot of the power. What happens if you stop doing that? You realize you're the whole sky. Where you came from is everything. That's what's going on in there. Because your personal stuff is drawing your consciousness down, you're only aware of that. The day you don't have to get pulled down because you relaxed through it, you handled it, and so on, you're up here, you realize there's a behind me, there's an on top of, there's every direction. I'm not just sitting there floating in the middle of nothing. And what will happen is your center will start to expand. And it will expand, and you'll feel more spacious. And then less and less will bother you because it's really beautiful up there. It's just, you're the highest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. You're gorgeous. You're unbelievable. You, the consciousness. And so it expands. It starts to expand. And then you start to understand what the Master is talking about. Which Meher Baba said, when I let go completely, when I let go of me completely, the drop of my consciousness that was staring at me fell into the ocean. It stopped. Like I said, I think the magnifying glass thing is a perfect example. It stopped focusing down to a point, and it became way more expansive, didn't it? Always was. Never changed. The sun was always there, okay? You just stopped focusing on you. And all of a sudden he said, my drop of consciousness fell into an ocean of consciousness, and I became everything. What does that mean? Yogananda said it really beautifully. There's a chapter in autobiography. It's called My Experience in Cosmic Consciousness. And he said he reached this state where first he was a person, then boom, the energy went up so high that he became the universe, that he was the galaxy. Not I'm looking at it. It's not an object. I am every galaxy. I am expanding at the speed of light in every direction, everywheres. It's just, whoa. Why? Because you didn't limit consciousness to you. Therefore, it's consciousness. And it just so happens consciousness is God. In the deep Upanishads, the great scriptures, God is called Chit Shakti, conscious energy. Now, in science, we have gone down and studied what's all this made of. And they call it a quantum field of energy. There's no matter, there's just energy. And particles seem to appear out of the energy, but really they don't. It's just a behavior pattern. It's just pure light, pure energy. Einstein said E equals MC squared. Energy is matter, matter is energy. Okay? They went down there. Science has gone down there to the level of Shakti. Shakti is energy. It's all made of energy. I read once, that really blew me away. In a NASA article, a big NASA write-up, it said the quantum field is omnipresent. Oh my God. The only time I ever heard the word omnipresent used before was God. And they said the quantum field is omnipresent. The farthest galaxies are made of the quantum field. Every single thing is made of the quantum field. Okay, good. Now we're getting somewhere. All right. But in yoga, we teach you chit shakti. All right. What does that mean? Conscious energy. It's not just energy. It's consciousness. Behaving as energy, behaving as consciousness. In other words, underneath it all, there's God. Everywhere is the same. It's just omnipresent, non-dual. It's just this field of consciousness that just blows my mind. I can't even talk about it. Imagine a field, I'm going to try, a field of consciousness that stretches out to the 2 trillion galaxies and beyond. It's infinite. And every spot is the same consciousness. Just like your body, every spot on your body is conscious. You're conscious of every spot on your body, right? That consciousness is just as present in your little finger as it is in the farthest galaxy, and it's all connected together at the same time in the same way. There's, oh my God, that's God. So that consciousness is the real appreciation and understanding of God, and you are that consciousness. Consciousness is consciousness. If I go to the ocean, anybody go to the ocean, there's the ocean. Take a little bit here, ocean, a little bit here, right? It's the ocean. Your consciousness is the same consciousness as the consciousness that's everywhere throughout the universe. The problem is, it's staring at you. Do you understand? That's why Christ said you must die to be reborn. You have to be willing to not know yourself as what you know yourself as now, so that you can know what you are. You're the pure consciousness staring at you. It's funny. I don't know if you use that magnifying glass example, but that's pretty darn good, right? Light is everywhere, but you only see it on that dot because you focus it and distract it down to that dot. If you stop doing that, boom, that light is everywhere. Well, that's it. That's what's going on. So I always told you, you come out here, when we start going to December, toward the New Year's, you get some serious talks. Why? You're sitting on a planet spinning around a star. How many times? I don't know, 80, 90 times. All right? There's some handful of times. It's been doing it for 4.5 billion years. And basically you come down to understanding that the meaning of your life is what we just talked about. It's not true that he who dies with the most toys wins. They leave without their toys. There's absolutely nothing that you're doing here that has any meaning except liberation, except freeing yourself from yourself. Because when the body drops, you're still there. Consciousness does not die. Okay? The Gita says weapons can't reach it, waters can't overwhelm it, fires can't burn it. You can see fire, you can see water. It's an object of consciousness, but it's not consciousness. They can't touch it. Okay? So it's a time, as you come toward the new year, to stop and take inventory. What am I doing with my life? Am I wasting my life by trying to get what I want and avoid what I don't want, since it's not even me that wants it, it's just patterns that I learned? There's patterns. Yes, I feel better if I get it, and I feel worse if I don't. Okay, fine. Is that your whole life? Give me a break. It's pretty small. And you're pretty big. All right? Or you work on this, what we talked about. You work on, Ramadas used to say, use it to go to God. Use what? Everything. Use every single thing to let go of yourself so that you can experience your true self. All right. Thank you for listening. Jagradav.